Commissioner Avila Vasquez.
Present.
Commissioner Caldwell.
Here.
Commissioner Howington.
Here.
Commissioner Lully.
Present.
Commissioner Santiago.
Here.
Vice Mayor Harriet.
Present.
Mayor Avila.
Here. Can I ask Commissioner Lully? Can we please have some respect to this? We need to stop. We have a commission meeting to run. Can we please have Commissioner Lully start with the invocation and the pledge, please?
Can we do the pledge first? Okay. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me for a moment of silence, just 5 seconds of silence in honor of our veterans from this past week and a prosperous future for our community. Thank you.
This time we're going to do we have any additions and deletions?
Excuse me, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Phyllis Wallace, Public Works. We do have a presentation. We're just having a little technical difficulties. This is a presentation from Maduro on the Teresa Basin study, where we are to date. It's just,
You're going right now?
yes.
Legal, is this legal that they can do this?
Ms. Blodgett, we're in the middle of a commission meeting, please. No outbursts from the public. Ms. Blodgett, please. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ooh, not recognized. You have it on something else.
No, Joyce just loaded it on her computer.
What's it called? Teresa Basin Commission update?
Yes.
Okay, and give me a second to get it up.
So I want to introduce Ben Perneski with Adura, the consultant working on the Teresa Basin study.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. My name is Ben Pernesny. I am Senior Project Manager with the Ardura Group out of our Maitland office. It is my pleasure to once again speak to this body about the Teresa Basin flood control study. And in doing so, I want to recognize all the new faces that I see on the commission since the last time I had the chance to speak with you all last year. So tonight, I just want to give a brief update on the status of the project, talk a little bit about data collection efforts that have been taking place over the last year, the public engagement and getting external stakeholders involved in the project, and the development of our computer models, which are going to inform the recommendations that we make for the Teresa Basin. We'll talk a little bit about the impacts that the basin felt from Hurricane Milton and some implications for that for where the study goes from here. We'll talk a little bit about the next steps in our project over the next year or so and the schedule for its completion, at which point I'll be happy to take any questions the Commission might have. So before we go any further, again, for the benefit of some of the new faces on the board, I'd just like to give a brief update, a background in terms of how this study came about and where it is we want to take it. So Hurricanes Ian and Nicole in 2022 dropped a tremendous amount of rain in the late fall there of 22 on a Teresa Basin, which already had some pretty elevated lake levels to start because it was late in the rainy season. Those storms raised those lakes by about 3.5 feet there over the course of a month. And then they just stayed there because that's really the nature of the Teresa Basin. It's what we call a closed basin. There's no positive outfall for water to flow out of the basin, say down to the St. Johns River. So we get a lot of rain here in the basin. There's really two places for the water to go. Either infiltrates down into the groundwater or it evaporates into the atmosphere. And both of those are very slow processes. So with that being said, the city engaged a team led by my firm, Ardura, last October to start a comprehensive study of the Teresa Basin. And again, the primary objective of this study is to develop a defensible and permittable flood control plan. And that's really something I want to emphasize. This is not an easy process. We can't simply go out there, put in a couple of pumps down to the south side of the lake and just pump it all out to Lake Monroe and say, done, job done. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work like that. We need to be able to demonstrate that we're not simply moving any flooding problems from Teresa Basin just downstream to someone else. There's also some significant water quality issues that we have to be aware of in ensuring that we're not going to be degrading the water quality of any other lakes or rivers where we would divert excess floodwaters from the Teresa Basin. So as part of this project, we're developing stormwater models. These are digital representations of the Teresa Basin through which we can run various different storm scenarios to identify where we're going to see flooding, where the problem areas are, and give us a basis then for developing conceptual improvements to provide tangible flood relief for the flood issues that the residents of Teresa Basin are experiencing. So, again, the first phase of the project was centered on data collection. The recommendations, the models, all of the outputs of this study are only going to be as good as the quantity and the quality of the data that goes into it. So we embarked on a comprehensive effort to gather as much data as we could about the hydrology and the hydraulics of the Teresa Basin. This included evaluating previous studies, looking at recent new developments, permitting databases, working with your staff, your stormwater staff and public works, as well as with the residents and others to gain information on historic flooding issues, high water levels, and identifying pretty much all the major stormwater inventory components of the Teresa Basin. I just want to go over a couple of critical data items, just highlight a couple things that we have done here over the past year. One of the things that we started with was developing a new digital elevation model for the Teresa Basin, which represents the topography and is a critical part of the models that we are developing. This was based on a high-resolution, high-quality LiDAR study that was performed in 2018 by the Florida Department of Emergency Management. Of course, that then reflected what the topography of the basin looked like when that LiDAR was shot in 2018. We then went and identified further projects that have been constructed since 2018 through to the beginning of our project in 2023, and worked with the Water Management District and the county, as well as the developers and their engineers, to get appropriate data then so that we can update those topographic maps to reflect the finished condition of those more recent developments. Speaking of which, we evaluated recent developments using from the city's development engineering database, as well as with the Water Management District's permitting database. The most recent models that had been developed for the basin were done in 2016, so we worked with the city and with the Water Management District to identify over 120 projects that have been done since, planned or constructed since 2016, looking at the major ones that had critical components and major implications for the stormwater system. We identified 51 of these then to add and incorporate into our project models. And finally, one of the big aspects of the data collection phase is starting the public and stakeholder coordination effort. There is a wealth of knowledge about this basin that the residents, those who live and work in the basin on a daily basis, as well as other external stakeholders, including Volusia County, DOT District 5, the Water Management District, the cities of DeLand and Lake Helen. They had a great amount of knowledge that would go into developing a quality plan. So we held a public meeting, the first one in January of 2024. And particularly, again, for those who want somewhat of a refresher in a little more background and detail in the study, we had developed a pre-recorded presentation that's available on the city's YouTube page that I would refer you to, as well as the public meeting itself. Then the live portion of that meeting was recorded and have that available that I can provide, a recording of which that I can provide to the commission for your reference if you're interested in the kinds of questions and feedback that the residents had during that meeting, and there was quite a bit of it. So now that our data collection efforts are largely complete, we are moving into we have moved into our modeling phase. Again, this is the development of digital representations of the basin, its topography, its soils, its land use, its imperviousness, its development status, and being able to develop a representation through which we can run scenarios to figure out where are we going to see flooding in the basin, how bad is it going to be, and for what type of storm, going up to these 100 and 500-year storms that you hear about in flood mapping, and identify where the major problem areas are going to be. And again, we're going to use these models to confirm known flooding areas. We're going to potentially identify additional flooding areas, as well as to be able to map new floodplains then, for which could be taken forward into, if the city chooses, into official map updates with FEMA. And then again, use those models as a basis then for evaluating proposed improvements to reduce those flood stages. So as far as where we stand in the development of the models, so we're developing two versions of the model. We're developing one based on the way that the basin looked at the beginning of our project in 2023. We're also developing one that looks at a more historic level back at around 2016. And from there, we're developing several scenarios. One is looking at how the basin is going to respond to a storm as it was, again, at the beginning of our project in 23. We're looking at a build-out scenario. So this is using the current stormwater infrastructure in place, but taking into account proposed developments that haven't been constructed yet, as well as future land use and zoning changes per the city's zoning maps in terms of what is the anticipated intensity of development in certain areas and how might that affect the amount of runoff that is being generated. And then we're looking at what we call continuous simulation models. So in this case, we are looking at actual storm events. We're looking at a period from 2017 to 2022, which includes the three big ones we've had recently, Hurricanes Irma, Ian, and Nicole, as well as a period from 2009 to 2014 where actually the city encountered quite a dry period, several years there with below average rainfall, because we want to look to make sure then that any flood control strategies or scenarios that we propose are not going to adversely impact lake levels when the city is in a dry period. At this point, I want to take a brief minute to talk about Hurricane Milton. As you probably are all very aware, there was some significant impacts in the Teresa Basin from Hurricane Milton. Not quite as bad or quite as much rain as was seen in Ian and Nicole, but again, those lake levels were still fairly elevated. They still had not yet recovered from Ian and Nicole almost 2 years later. And so starting from those high conditions and getting another big storm, we saw some significant flooding all throughout the basin. And again, situation where water would stage up and then it just happened to stay there and very slowly recovered. That is what we expect to see based on our knowledge of the basin. This is also a great opportunity as you as commissioners are talking with your residents regarding their experiences during Hurricane Milton. Please encourage them to provide you and Public Works and us with as much data as they gathered. Any pictures that they may have taken of their property when the water levels were, say, at their highest, from which we can extrapolate high water marks. This is all excellent data that we can help to validate our models and, again, provide a good basis then from which we can identify where we want to focus flood control projects and strategies moving forward. So highly recommend to all my friends back here, if you had any significant flooding complaints and issues during Hurricane Milton, please share them with us, share them with myself and with Public Works, and we'll make sure that all of that gets incorporated into the study. One other thing, too, that we came out of this, myself and my colleague, Ms. McWilliams, were taken out by city staff the week after the storm, so we got to put our eyes on certain problem areas. It was a very constructive effort. As much as anything, too, it helped us to identify certain areas of the basin where we had not anticipated seeing problems, or where we did not have as much detail or resolution in the model. A good example of this is the area around Coachman Drive and Ironsdale Street in the northeast portion of the basin, where there was some significant washout, some major flooding, a lot of erosion of the channels through there. And when we took a look at it in the model, we determined that we didn't actually have those channels in there to begin with. So obviously this is a problem areas that we weren't originally aware of, and this provided a good opportunity then for us to figure out, okay, let's go back and let's add some detail in there and make sure that we have a problem area identified and a solution proposed in that particular area moving forward. So again, once we complete our model setup, we're going to be moving into our capital improvement planning phase. We're going to be evaluating a whole range of strategies from major capital improvements such as major culverts and diversions or big pump stations to get more water out of the basin, to more atypical efforts, things like identifying opportunities to reuse stormwater, to be able to capture and use it for irrigation purposes or to augment the city's reclaimed water supply. Things like operation and maintenance improvements, identifying where some flooding simply may just be occurring because a particular pond control structure is just clogged and just needs to be, but otherwise, you know, if it were flowing full, should be working properly. We'll be developing conceptual cost estimates for all of these and apply a ranking matrix to, again, identify our highest priority projects moving forward. Again, also the model results will be used to develop flood maps. There will be a set of flood maps that will be developed as part of our final report. And again, the city does have the option under our contract that we can move forward with developing the submittals that would need to be made to FEMA if we were to make revisions to the formal flood insurance rate maps. Talk briefly here about the project schedule. Again, we kicked off last year. We have completed our data collection effort. We're well into our model development effort. These models are a little more complex than you sometimes see in basin studies such as this, but in particular, because this is a closed basin, we're incorporating some more complex groundwater modeling in particular, which normally we don't do, which is why these models are going to take a little bit of while to develop. But at the same time, too, we are also starting to look at, even before the models are done, starting to look at areas where we can potentially put in some flood control projects and have those all laid out to go so that we can evaluate them as soon as the models are ready. The goal is still to have this project completed by the end of 2025. And with that, I will open it up to any questions that you might have.
Commissioner Villa-Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. My first question, are we going to be able to have the presentation documents in hand? Would you be able to provide that?
For this presentation here?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I'll send Ms. Wallace a PDF of this.
Thank you. And my other question is, on the last screen that you had there, the stars, does that mean that that's going to be the time when you're holding the next public meeting?
Yes, we're anticipating holding our next public meeting next fall in or around October of next year, and that public meeting, we will be at that point prepared to share our draft recommendations, so the recommended projects, as well as to share then the draft floodplain maps so that residents will be able to see where their residence lies in comparison to our flood inundation maps for the 100-year and other storms.
So that's more or less when you anticipate having your project and your report ready?
Yes, at that point, that'll be draft for basically for public comment and for the commission's comment at that point before we finalize it after those meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lully.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a point for staff. When I tried to initially request to speak, it said it was downloading some file and didn't really work right, so I may need help with that at some point. But if I went actually into the item, it worked. So we might be good for tonight. Thank you for the presentation. I just want to disclose, just to be completely transparent, my employer has a professional relationship with Ardura somewhere in the States, so just want to disclose it out there for the public who's watching this. At the end of this study, how quickly do you think that we'll get actionable projects? Or would that be ultimately up to us to program that in our various capital improvement programs?
At the end of the study, the majority of what's going to be coming out of this is going to be fairly conceptual. It'll be at maybe a 5 to 10% level of detail. So there will still be your standard engineering design timelines that will need to come out after them. Depending on some of these recommendations as well, particularly for any major capital improvements, we're probably looking at some significant budgets. Part of our recommendations will include funding options for some of these projects if they're eligible, we believe, for, say, FEMA HMGP grants or for TMDL grants from the state or USDA or other opportunities. But as far as securing funding to implement them is probably something that needs to be considered in the time frame. But again, the plan is to ensure that everything that we propose has at least gone through the base level of feasibility analysis to ensure that there's no major red flags that would prevent any of these from being implemented after going to design. We want to make sure any project in particular that we recommend, we are going to be putting in front of the district first to ensure that it's going to at least on its face pass regulatory scrutiny before we put it in as a recommendation in the report. So ideally, these projects, when they do go to design, should not face, hopefully, any serious pushback. But with that being said, yes, there'll still be quite a bit of level of design detail that'll be required beyond the study before they can be constructed.
Have you noted any dramatic changes between any previous studies that you've reviewed and the current study you're undertaking? Is there anything that surprised you that you weren't expecting?
Not necessarily surprised. The modeling that had been done for this basin previously had been done under the city's citywide stormwater master plans, which had been updated, every so often since I think the early 2000s. What we're doing here as part of this, we're taking the Teresa Basin part of that original model, and we're doing a lot more detail on it. And so, again, those studies and those existing models. Serve their purpose, and they still have a purpose. They can be used for, helping to plan development and whatnot. But with regards to, again, in particular, coming up with permittable solutions, major permittable flood control solutions, we needed to add a lot more resolution to the surface water portion of the model, as well as formally include a groundwater component, which had not been done previously, but had been recommended. I think going back as far as about 2010, there was another consultant who had made a recommendation. It's like, again, Teresa Basin, this all appears to be groundwater controlled. We need to get a handle on this. So that's what we're adding. That's the additional value that we're giving to the city as part of this. And again, from it, we hope that it will provide a level of defensibility that will allow then some major projects to be permitted and constructed.
Let's say you find properties where, whether vacant or occupied, where the engineering cost of actually mitigating any flooding there is just so extreme, or nothing will work. These are properties that are at the bottom of a bowl, so to speak, and they're going to flood for the next 500 years. Would you recommend property acquisition in any part of this study, and then again turning that back over to the floodplain, essentially?
I suspect that will be among the things that we look at in our recommendations. Yes, will be, for properties that appear to, even after we've implemented as part of our recommendations some major projects, if we're not seeing benefit for it, I suspect that, yes, we will have some recommendations regarding potential buyouts and property acquisition.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Colwell and then Commissioner Howington.
Yeah, I actually had the same question as Mr. Lully as far as acquisitions of properties. I do have another question. As the study goes on and continued to 2025, is it continually updated and adjusted for projects that are presented to the city?
So as far as our models were based on a cutoff date of October 1st, 23 when we started the project. Okay. That being said, we are keeping an eye on things as far as anything new that comes in. Again, we are going to be doing some scenarios where we do factor in future development through, again, in as much as we are taking into account future zoning maps. So, areas where there are going to be significant land use changes anticipated from existing to future, we are modeling that, and so that is going to, generally see more runoff associated with that than that we will test against the existing major stormwater infrastructure to see what kind of stress that puts on the existing system. As far as major specific projects, I don't think we've identified anything since October 23 that we've going to be including in the model, but we are certainly open to those discussions as well with Public Works as the project moves forward. If there's anything major that comes through that is decided, this is a hot button item that needs to be looked at.
Commissioner Harrington, then Vice Mayor Harriet, then Commissioner Santiago.
To piggyback off of Commissioner Caldwell, we have a lot of rezones that are coming through. We have one tonight. So we need to make sure that we're accounting for that. And so maybe you need to build in a margin of error or something. Is there any way that you can add something like that to look at what we've done historically?
Noted, and we'll definitely bring that up then in conversations with Public Works to see how we want to handle that. Again, right now for our build-out condition model, we're using the zoning map as it was on October 1st, 2023. If there have been significant changes to it, we'll make sure that we have that looked at in one way or the other. If nothing else, just documented in the study. If we think that there are major reasons for that would cause some significant changes to our model results, if we incorporated that, then we can have those discussions with Public Works if we want to include those rezones then in our build-out models.
I would appreciate that because I know that several of our residents have complained that we do these studies about once every 5 years. And since we have continual changes by the time we get the results back, it nullifies anything that we've done during the study. So we need to make sure that we keep that updated.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Harriet.
I'd also just like to, on the same topic, if you guys would be interested in circling back with our Development Services Department. I know that we've got some new staff in there. They've got some things moving around, so I think it'd be great to circle back with them and update that side. Also, I wanted to clarify that your cutoff of October 2023 for data, that was based off of projects, not, so to clarify that you are going to include data from Hurricane Milton essentially in your models.
So the plan right now is not to actually model Hurricane Milton, but we will use the data that we get from the models that we have. We'll definitely do some comparisons to what we saw in Hurricane Milton, as much as anything to help validate, to help truth test our models. Again, we are primarily looking at Ian and Nicole as our big real-world storms that we're going to be evaluating against to see if we can, as accurately as possible, reflect how the basin actually responded to that, and then again be able to look at, well, if we had a certain flood control strategy in place when Ian and Nicole came through, how much better would things have been? So,
okay.
But again, as far as the Milton comment was concerned, any sort of data like that, then particularly when we're looking at the results for our synthetic design storms, kind of helps to truth test things, make sure that we're not completely off base on something. So that's where that information could be very helpful.
I know that in the district that I represent, Ian and Nicole posed a much higher water level than what Milton did, and so that works in District 1, I think, largely. But I also know that there are some pockets of District 1, and I think some pockets of your district where things happened in Milton that did not happen in Ian and Nicole. So I just want to make sure that we're capturing all of that, and we're not just cutting it off and ignoring data points that are important to the city.
Understood.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Santiago.
Thank you for that presentation. There we go. Thank you for the presentation. Really quick, I know you mentioned the LiDAR was done in 2018. Will there be another one done soon or again?
I'm not aware of any new LiDAR projects in the near future. I'll just say that. Like I said, again, we made sure to take that 2018 LiDAR, and then we call it burning. We burned in new development that had been constructed since then. So, we're pretty confident that our elevation model is pretty accurately reflecting what's out there currently. But as of now, I'm not aware of any new efforts being undertaken either by the county or the state to do any further LiDAR study in this area right now.
Okay, and then just one last question. How many houses were affected by the hurricane? What was the total?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I'll be sure to write to you.
Okay, thank you.
So I only have one question. Are you going to be using, I'm trying to gauge if I understood you correctly. So we're not going to include Hurricane Milton's information in the study, but are you going to be using that as essentially to test what you guys are doing currently?
Yes, yeah, like I said, it's going to be validating data. So in particular, the synthetic design storms, the 100-year storm that will run or the 500-year storm that will run, there's no necessarily direct corollary in a real-world storm for it.
Sure.
So it gives us an opportunity that, if say we run our 100-year model and we're seeing a certain degree of flooding, inundation, we're taking a look at a particular road and, oh man, so, there's like a 1,000-foot section of this road that looks like it's a foot underwater. And we can go back and basically just truth check is, well, what happened to this road under Milton? Or same thing, under Ian and Nicole as well. If there was no flooding there, then that, for the real world storms, well, that tells us, maybe there's something off there. Maybe we need to readjust a couple parameters in the model. We may see an area that we're not seeing any flooding in the model, but that absolutely got inundated during the real world storms. And again, that just helps us to make sure that we're, that we're on track as much as anything.
I guess that leads to my last question. So, in your studying and verifying section of this, right? Let's say I'll use Fort Smith and Elkham as an example. It doesn't show that there is an issue. You guys will adjust and reevaluate if, when you look at it and you see under Hurricane Milton, Fort Smith and Elkham was actually hit pretty bad. Is that correct?
Generally, yes. Yeah. Again, well, as I think there was a statistics professor at the University of Wisconsin who one time said, all models are wrong, but some are useful. And our goal is to get you guys one as useful as possible. So and again, that's where a lot of this real world data comes in to make sure that we're on track.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's no other questions. Okay, is there any other additions or deletions, the city clerk? No? All right. I don't see any presentations, awards, or reports. Are there any Deltona committee events? That would be from the public. Are there any? Did you have a community event announcement? No? All right. We're going to move to, go ahead.
Mayor, I have a question. I'm a little confused on this. This is something new on the agenda.
So do you want to take a quick minute to explain it?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. One of the discussions was what happens when a community event such as Little League signups, the Rotary Club's having a special event at the center, or any other upcoming event. Even the church group has a trunk or treat. That's an opportunity at the public meeting for a group to be able to stand up and explain one of their events that they're having. That was a concern of the public comment not being on television, was what about some of those opportunities. So staff itself would like to actually have any group that wants to advertise something to actually send us a flyer. We can actually put it on the TV, a flyer of the event itself when they take their few minutes to discuss an upcoming event. So that community events will be something that Commission can ask about every week. And certainly, again, we'd like to advertise those community events that are good in Deltona for Deltona residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes, thank you.
All right. We're going to go ahead and move to ordinances and public hearing. Public hearing ordinance number 12-2024, amending the official zoning map to rezone plus 36.46 acres of land located along the North Normandy Boulevard corridor, south and east of the I-4 Logistic Park, IPUD, within the activity center from single-family residential R1-AA to mixed planned unit development MPUD. Jessica.
Good evening, Commission. Jessica Entwistle, Assistant Director of Planning Development Services. For the record, ordinance number 12-2024 is a quasi-judicial meeting, so I'm going to pass the meeting over to the city attorneys to swear anyone in.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jessica. Please be advised that the following items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon any of these items, please indicate the item number you would like to address when the announcement regarding the quasi-judicial item is made. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to either be cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the Commission to ask questions on their behalf. The full agenda packet on each agenda item is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedures may be obtained from the city clerk. At this time, commissioners must disclose any ex parte communications concerning items on the agenda.
Commissioner Emma Santiago, can you please disclose your ex parte?
Can you?
You have any or no?
I just wanted to say.
Can you
No, I
explain
know
to them what that means, Mayor?
If the city attorney can explain.
Yes, so any ex parte communications would be any communications with applicants on this item or any other quasi-judicial item that it takes place outside of the context of this public hearing.
No. Commissioner Maritza Vila-Vasquez.
None.
Commissioner Howington.
No.
Commissioner Colwell.
None.
Commissioner Lully.
I had a teleconference on November 15th, 2024 at 12:09 p.m. with Cobb and Cole and the applicant, and the phone call lasted for about 28 minutes.
Vice Mayor Harriet.
None.
None for myself.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I will now swear in any persons who wish to testify on any quasi-judicial item. So if you wish to testify, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you hereby swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Okay.
All right, ordinance number 12-2024 is for synergy at Normandy and mixed-use plan unit development. The applicant is requesting to rezone the R1AA single-family zoning with activity center overlay to a mixed-use plan unit development, or an MPUD. The MPUD will have uses such as light industrial, offices, retail, flex space, a gas station, and 320 multifamily units. This is an aerial of the area. The property we are speaking about is south of the new Amazon building and north of South Avenue. This is the master development plan which depicts over 52% of the MPUD will be utilized for light industrial or commercial type uses. The applicant is also dedicating a 30-foot strip of land on the northern boundary for the future Rhode Island extension and additional land along the North Normandy right-of-way to straighten the existing right-of-way. While we do not have renderings of the exact look of the buildings, these are examples of what the buildings are going to be modeled after. These are the multifamily amenities. This is just to show you guys that these are going to have more amenities than the other multifamily that have come to the city. They're going to have a 4,000 to 6,000 square foot clubhouse. They're going to have pocket parks, grills, resort style pool, a pet park with a grooming spa. And matters of consideration. The rezone is consistent with the comprehensive plan, both for the future land use, but also the plan for the activity center. The rezone will provide jobs to the residents and a tax revenue for the city. These are the goals and policies the rezone meets within the comprehensive plan. These policies speak in regards to appropriate buffers and transitional areas to utilize and ensure compatibility between residential areas, commercial and industrial development. The multifamily section of the request abuts the residential neighborhood to the south. There will be no access to the neighborhood as all traffic will be self-contained. The activity center is the appropriate place for an MPD as it's designated as an employment hub for the city, and the activity center does require PUDs. While the city has nearly 100,000 residents, many residents travel outside of the city for employment. The light industrial uses and retail uses within the MPD will provide an area for residents to live, work, and play. Based on decision-making criteria, staff supports the City Commission approving ordinance number 12/2024, amending the official zoning map to rezone approximately 36.46 acres of land along the North Normandy Boulevard corridor from R1AA to MPUD at first reading. Are there any questions?
So this time, for the new commissioners up here, the questions that are going to be asked are for staff. Once staff is done with questions, then we'll ask questions of the applicant. So we have Commissioner Santiago, Commissioner Avila Vasquez, and then Commissioner Lolia, in that order.
Thank you, Mayor. I did take a look at the site plan. If you can pull up the site plan really quick. I just have a concern about the way it's proposed. I know right now it is a mixed-use planned unit development, and my concern is the area. If you take a look at that, the area facing Normandy. Currently, like I said, it's mixed use, and it has warehouses and a gas station. I would like to, that area, if you see the Rhode Island extension, eventually it'll go over I-4 and into Orange City. What I would like to see is that area as a C1, commercial, for like residential, for restaurants and commercial retail, not so much of a warehouse. That current area right now is very popular, and with the Rhode Island extension, I just wouldn't want to see a warehouse there or a gas station. The people have been asking for commercial, and I think it needs to be changed as a C1. So I'm asking for, with that said, I just want to ask that we can at least postpone it, temporary postpone it just for the developer's agreement to allow staff to work with the developer and change that to a C1. Thank you.
Commissioner Avila Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. So I know that right now the request is to rezone, but we can go into our concerns.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. So my question is this going to be a multi-use development with businesses and apartments, like the Live Local requiring?
So this is not a Live Local project, but it is going to be a mixed use, similar to what we require for that.
Can you tell me what the mixed use is going to be look like? I know that you explained it a little bit later, but run it by it again, please.
Okay, so on the screen, everything on your right-hand side, past the master retention, is going to be your residential section. And then your abutting North Normandy as well as Rhode Island extension will be your light industrial, your retail use, and your gas station. So that's what makes it mixed use.
Where is the Rhode Island exit going to be stationed? Is it going to be behind the racetrack, or is it going to be by Wolfpack Run?
That has not been decided yet.
That hasn't been decided?
No, ma'am.
But we're already making plans for it?
Both the I-4 Logistics Park and Synergy have dedicated right-of-way for that.
Okay. The other question I have is, where is the exit to all these developments going? How is it going to... what's going to be the exit and the entrance? Is it going to be all going through Normandy?
So there are 3 entrances and exits onto North Normandy. 2 of them are right in, and right out only, and there's 1 main entrance that will be full function.
So when you say right in and right out, that's the right, going the same, the same restrictions that we have from Amazon. Amazon can only make left turns. So it's across the street from the Amazon, the old Amazon. It's across the street from the old Amazon, correct?
No, it is further down. It's
further down, but it's on the same side as the old Amazon, or is it on the other side?
On the new Amazon. It's right next to the new Amazon.
On that side. So when they're getting out, it's just, they can just go towards Graves.
Correct, they could, yes. That would be the right out, yes.
So if all the traffic is going to go through Graves, towards Graves, cars, trucks, everything, right? Because right now, Amazon is restricted to make a right, but they still do. So my concern is all this commercial traffic going left. It's going to hit some of my district residents, and then Saxon Boulevard is backed up as it is right now, and we don't need all this. So I'm hoping that when this is going to be thought of, that right turn is a right turn, and no other way for this traffic to go. When you say traffic self-contained, is that the right turn that you're talking about?
So it's self-contained for the residents. They cannot exit other than onto Normandy. They cannot get through that neighborhood. That's what I meant by self-contained.
So they can just go make that right turn?
Yes.
And the gas station, I'm trying to picture where this gas station would go.
So the gas station is going to be, as she showed me, right there. It's lot 3. Yes, so it's going to be on the corner of Normandy and essentially...
Sir, this is a quasi-judicial meeting right now. You'll have public comment soon.
So it's on the corner of North Normandy and the future Rhode Island.
But we don't even know where the future Rhode Island exit is going to be, right?
Correct. We don't know where it's going to go, but this is what's been dedicated for it. So that's where the gas station would be going.
Wow. And then the other side is going to be for residential.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not crazy about all this traffic coming back to Deltona Boulevard. Normandy Boulevard. I hear a lot of complaints as it is right now from Amazon. So let me just look at this again. Thank you.
Commissioner Lully, and then Commissioner Colwell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask some questions. I might know the answers to some of it, but I want to make sure that our audience understands as well. Can you describe to us what the activity center is?
The Activity Center is a hub for commercial, industrial. There is a 15% of multifamily that can be built in there. It's technically supposed to be your entertainment hub of the city.
How long ago was that put into place? Do you know? I'm sorry.
I cannot give you a date. I'm sorry about that.
In the years either. I got it. But it wasn't last year.
No,
okay.
It has been in place for over
a while.
Yes.
So when we do that, we set future land uses within the activity center, correct?
Yes.
And so your recommendation tonight is that this meets one of those future land uses that's been stated in there?
Correct. With the current zoning it has with the overlay, it cannot be built. You cannot build single-family houses within the activity center.
So that was, I guess, going to be my next question. I was going to ask you, if you maxed out the number of houses in that current zoning, what would that number be? And you're saying the number would be 0 because of that overlay?
Correct.
Okay. When this property, and this might be for the applicant, when this property was acquired, do you know if the activity center overlay was already in place?
I will defer to him.
Okay. That might be, I do have another question. Are you aware of any grocery stores in this district that are permitted right now or that may be coming before you in your department?
Not that I'm aware of right now.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Colwell?
My question has been answered.
Okay. Commissioner Avila-Vasquez, you're on the board again.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I left out a question. analysis of the traffic impact. Have you gotten the report back from Volusia County?
So the report has gone back and forth with Volusia County as well as the city. We're waiting for final comments from Volusia County as well as a prop fair share, which would have to be drafted before it could be built.
So we have to vote on something that we have no idea what the traffic impact is going to be?
So the traffic impact analysis is already completely done. The report was in your packet. Volusia County has minor comments that were left, I believe, 2 months ago, and the applicant's still working with Volusia County to get those addressed.
Okay. Thank you.
Jessica, let me ask you a question. We currently have an ordinance that's being worked on for Live Local, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. If we were to rezone this, and I know this is not the case because I believe this is supposed to be high-end housing, right? Something happens, applicant can change their mind, and this would actually then qualify for Live Local, correct?
No, sir, because they would have to essentially build the amenities. The amenities are provided in the DA, so those amenities would have to be built as well. Most of your Live Local projects aren't going to have the high-end amenities that this one has.
Let's say that they decide to go a different route, and I see Jordan coming up, so. Go ahead, Jordan.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission. The answer is no, it would not be able to be built on this because it's a negotiated development. So Live Local would only be commercial and industrial land use, or zoning, sorry.
So if it gets rezoned to an MPUD, there is no chance that this can become a Live Local in the future?
Unless the Florida legislature changed it, but the answer is no, correct.
So and I know we still have to hear from the applicant. I'm going to make a proposal, right? I'm not going to make a motion yet because I want to hear from the applicant. But I'm going to make a proposal to staff and specifically to the dais that we table this until we get specific information from our city attorney and we get the ordinance that you guys are working on completely passed, because I'll feel more comfortable and confident in making my decision when we have things that are already set and in place. That's just my perspective. So, is the applicant here? Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there any other questions from commissioners on the dais? No? All right. This time we're going to hear a presentation from the applicant or the applicant's attorney. Thank you, Jessica and Jordan.
Good evening. I'm Scott Banta, the applicant, and I'm glad to be here, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, staff, and our neighbors. We're delighted to be here, and I think there's some clarity that needs to be brought into the meeting. So let's talk about the Activity Center, if we may, at the beginning. So the Activity Center is an 800-acre area in the city of Deltona that basically goes from the top of the hospital down to the Wawa, over to the racetrack, and then it goes down the road that's between the racetrack and the high school. It goes down and encompasses the area where the YMCA is and the Volusia County Water Plant, and it basically goes down Wolfpack to South Avenue, which is our south property border, and it rolls over to I-4, straight west over to I-4, which encompasses the city's water plant and also the ALF and the self-storage facility that's across Normandy from us. And then it goes up along I-4 back up to the hospital. Everybody kind of understand that? So that's the Activity Center. That was decided a number of years ago by a former commission to have that. 15% of that area of 800 acres, 120 acres, was allocated to multifamily. So we've come in, and if you go and look at the existing plat, and I'm sorry we don't have that picture for you, but my box is 36 acres. We're the first box along Normandy. Going east from us, there are 3 more boxes. And then east of the new Amazon building, there's 2 boxes. So there's a total of 6 boxes that are roughly 36 acres. So it's a little over 200 acres of the activity center. We're currently working with Volusia County Utilities right now, and we'll be working with the city also to extend the water line from the county plant over to the east side of the new Amazon building, down to Rhode Island, and over to Normandy. The Rhode Island exit, when it comes, it is part of Phase 4 of the I-4 expansion. The toll lanes are supposed to end at Rhode Island, which is straight west of our property. Volusia County already has 130 feet of right-of-way that we've lined up with in conjunction with the I-4 Logistics Park. So part of this, it's really interesting to understand. I've been working on this for almost 5 years. We assembled 462 single-family lots that were either 25 by 110 or 35 by 110. We had 18 owners, and it's been a really good challenge. And we also wanted to create a plan that would minimize the impact on our Furwood neighbors, which is the street that's south of Long South Avenue that runs east-west from Normandy to the east, by putting some multifamily there. That's kind of a planning 101 type exercise where you have either commercial or industrial uses and you separate the single family with some multifamily. To answer your commissioner's question, we have 3 access points on Normandy, 2 on the new Rhode Island, which has been already constructed to the entrance of the new Amazon building. So when you drive out there on Normandy, that is the new location of the Rhode Island extension. That extension is going to go east through these boxes, other boxes we talked about, and possibly extend straight up to Howland between the high school and the racetrack. Everybody kind of following me on that? Okay. Our main entrance is in and out both ways, north and south on Normandy. The south entrance on the site plan is right in, right out only, and the gas station entrance is right in, right out only. So that kind of covers that. The city has a definitive need for more apartments. You also have very little bit of land left in the entire city of Deltona. And what we're concerned about is seeing these units and these residents, and especially the tax dollars, going across the bridge. So I did a quick analysis of, I picked 8 new apartment complexes in Volusia County that were all fairly new. The total property taxes on the 8 complexes was $6,589,000, which roughly equates to $2,811 per unit on an average basis. The total assessed value of those properties is $371 million. If you bring that back to our 320 units, at the 2,811 units, we'll be paying $899,535 in property taxes, which roughs out to, you'll love this, based on our 17 acres, that's an assessed value of $2,950,000. $2,950,000 per acre of assessed value. Amazon is at $838,000 per on their assessed value per acre. They have 85 acres. We have 17 acres allocated for the apartments. Our the per acre average of assessed value, of taxes actually paid would be $52,000. Amazon's paying $16,000 per acre right now. So I would suggest to you that while the apartments may not be something that you really want to see, it's something that's needed in the town. You don't have very many apartments. You have tons of single-family houses, but this will generate a tremendous amount of property tax value. Also, in the MPUD, there are not only in the industrial, we're proposing the industrial, but we have the ability to do retail also in those front two buildings. Our concern on that was in terms of the overall market, there's a tremendous amount of new retail that's going to come to the west side of, actually in Orange City and in DeLand on the west side of I-4 along 472. The entire frontage from I-4 all the way over to Kentucky or Martin Luther, MLK, is going to be retail, and it's going to come down Kentucky a little bit and go up. None of the big boys will go on a Normandy. They're going to go on Howland, they'll go on 472, they won't go on Kentucky, and they won't go on MLK. So our experience in that, while it would be nice to have that retail there, I think what we're trying to do here is with those other 5 boxes that are coming. You're all going to see them coming. We're already talking to other people right now about working on a design extension of Rhode Island to the east. I did the 50-acre project on Rhode Island West out by the high school in Orange City. We worked with the county and the city there. We extended Sparkman Avenue. We swapped off some right-of-way. We donated the lift station site that the elementary and middle school and the Orange City High School all use. So we're very familiar with working with local staff in order to provide solutions. That's why we're working with the county right now to do that water line extension. So all these other boxes that you're going to see, the other 200 acres that's coming, will have water services. And then we're also looking at working with your staff to design Rhode Island to see if we can do that to eliminate or help with some of the traffic flow that's going to happen. So our TIA indicated that we needed the traffic impact analysis, TIA, indicated that we needed a turn lane going southbound on Normandy at Rhode Island, and we needed a turn lane at our main entrance. So there already is the new turn lane already built on our site, in front of our site, to turn right on Rhode Island. We will have another turn lane going northbound on Normandy to turn into the site, and one going southbound to turn left into the site going southbound. So the traffic will be going both directions. Some of it will go south and some of it will go north from the project. We've taken any truck, our truck on the small bay industrial, which is what we're proposing, has the box trucks. It doesn't have the big trucks like Amazon. The new building has 97 truck wells on each side of the building. I went out one day and counted them. So there's 97 truck wells. Ours, we have in the plan, and you can see here the 2 north buildings up there have a truck well in between them, which would be primarily box trucks. That traffic will all be directed up to Rhode Island, and it has to go in and out of Rhode Island and into the project. It will not, it's going to obviously come off Normandy because that's the only way you can get there, but the truck traffic will all be directed there. Staff asked us to not have, we have a north-south road that is a service road that's parallel to Normandy. It's a private interior road that goes from the apartments up to Rhode Island. There'll be no truck traffic from that into there, so that frees the residents to flow up and down there. The other thing, in terms of stormwater, y'all had questions before on stormwater. We're a very, very high site. We go up to 95 feet of elevation. We have 33 feet of change on the property. The same thing that happens next door to the Amazon. You see the retention pond that they have on the new Amazon building that's right on Normandy. You can see it barely has any water in it. We will be retaining 100% of our stormwater on site, so there should be no problem with flooding to anybody around us. We have so much elevation change, we always laugh about it, that we go up to the top on where Rhode Island goes up. If you actually drive in there, you'll see that the road goes way up. Where it stops right now, we joke that we get nosebleeds up there from the 95 feet elevation. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I hope that kind of solve some of this. We cannot do a C1 zoning under your current status because it has to be a PUD because of the requirements in the activity center. And I just, we have 1,200 feet of frontage. When you look at bringing that all the way out approximately a mile to the east, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. We're trying to set the tone for a really high quality development, and we believe that there'll be ultimately a need for a gas station right there because sooner or later, at some point, I may not live to see the Rhode Island interchange, but at some point there will be an interchange there because there has to be an amelioration of traffic from the Saxon and all three, the Deltona exits from I-4. They all back up in the afternoon. So I'm here to answer any questions. We appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you.
So before I call on the commissioner, I'm going to take a quick point of privilege. Right, is that picture I'm looking at, is that the most up-to-date that you have?
Yes, sir. That was actually, we just got that this afternoon at 4:30.
So right where the trees are, where the red trees are at, what is it that I'm looking at on my iPad? Because I see a building there. That's not on that picture.
Okay, so on the bottom in the middle with the blue thing on the top, that would be one of the industrial buildings fronting Normandy. Normandy is running along the very bottom left corner, if you will.
I see that in the schematic. What I don't see is where the red trees are at. There's a building there currently. And I mean, I don't know if I'm incorrect. I think I can read this pretty well, but I see a building on the schematics that isn't on that picture.
Well, that's probably the clubhouse for the apartment.
Yeah, it's the clubhouse and the pool.
The clubhouse and the pool.
You know which Jessica? You know which attachment that is?
It's the master development plan.
Got it. All right, Commissioner Colwell, Commissioner Howington, and then Commissioner Lully.
I would like to make a motion at this time to table this.
There's a motion on the floor to table the project.
Second.
There's a second by Commissioner Villa-Vasquez. We're going to go, before we do any voting, we're going to go ahead and go to presentations. Before we go there, Commissioner Howington, go ahead, and then Commissioner Lully. And then we'll go to people with standing.
Can you explain the phases? Will you be building residential first? Some of the commercial, how is that planned?
We'll be moving a fair amount of dirt around, so we would anticipate doing all the site work at one time. The apartment developers and the industrial developers will not be the same company, so we would have two companies building it probably simultaneously.
Okay.
The gas station would most likely be in the future.
And have you secured any commercial occupants at this time?
Excuse me, say that again.
Have you secured any commercial applicants at this time, so occupants for the facilities, or is this just concept right now?
It's purely concept right now. We have an apartment developer that would like to join us, and we're talking to a number of industrial users, light manufacturing and light industrial users. Part of this is it's hard to go too far on that until you have an approval.
Understood. Thank you.
Commissioner Lully.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for presenting to us tonight. Some of what I wanted to say was already covered, so I appreciate the other commissioners covering that. I just wanted to make a comment, and I brought this up on the phone. And I have real concerns with adding any type of residential when anyone who's going to live there, they're going to go to Commissioner Villa-Vasquez's district to go to the grocery store. And I understand that, the way that development is phased, but I have real concerns with that. And that's just what I wanted to say, and you guys are aware of that. Thank you.
Okay. This time we're going to go to presentation from people with standing. So if you have standing in the matter, thank you, sir. If you have standing in the matter, could you please, and you filled out a card, is there anybody?
Ed Dalton, please.
How you guys doing?
Excuse me, sir, did she call your name?
Did you call my on the card? Oh, you gotta get the...
Go ahead, sir.
One man before you, Stephen.
Go ahead, sir. You can.
All right. Mr. Mayor, honorable commissioners, and city staff, thank you for having me, and thank you for all that you do for the city. It sounds like a hard job, and you guys do a good job at it. So my name is Ed Talton. I am a 30-year registered professional engineer, civil engineer in the state of Florida, and locally here I've lived in Volusia County all my life, including Deltona for 15 years, so raising my kids there. All right. I am respectfully objecting to this, and I fully agree with the tabling concept because this doesn't seem to me in line with the spirit of what the city is trying to accomplish with the city and with your comp plan. All right, I'm going to outlay that. This land is currently zoned for single-family residential, right? And I'm a property owner adjacent to this. My land is zoned for single-family residential. So you got to wonder, why would someone change single-family residential to multifamily, right? To high-density apartments? And I'm sure you guys are aware of this, but for the audience, there's a couple reasons. A, the developer maximizes profit on high-density residential. That is the reason they're doing it, right? It's not out of the kindness of his heart. B, for the city, you do get a little higher tax base, although the property values and the adjustments in those over the coming years might cancel that out. And what do we, the taxpayers and the citizens, get out of it? Actually, we get a mess of traffic congestion, crowded schools, higher taxes, higher water rates, and higher crime 15 years down the road. And if you don't believe me, Google Mercy Drive in City of Orlando. It's exactly this same piece of property. There was single-family residential. They dotted in apartments, right, abutting up a commercial. It is the #1 highest crime area in City of Orlando now, 15 to 20 years down the road from when they built those. So if that's what you want 15 to 20 years from now, that's what you're going to get. On the other side, there's not a lot of vacant land for the city left, and this is a golden opportunity for you to build something, a legacy, that would qualify as an activity center and would be in the spirit of the comp plan, right? This is your opportunity to improve yourself. And you know, we just went through this with Deltona Village, right? They started with 400 apartments. What did we end up with? 700 apartments, right? We're starting at 343. What are we going to end up with here, right? We just went through this. And we just went through the schools, the roads. This is the exact same thing. Let's go through a couple of your comp plan objectives here, and let's compare how this development applies to those. So number one, we want to maintain vital natural function with availability of public facilities. Are we doing that? 0 public facilities. You can't get in the apartments, right? There's no access into this, right? It's not connected to anything. It's not even connected to Deltona Village. It hasn't been master planned. Next one, discourages urban sprawl, walkable, design, unified. No, and no. That's not it, none of that. They're not walking to the Amazon warehouse, maybe that's, or the gas station to get a coffee or something, maybe. But provides existing and future needs at appropriate level of service for transportation, potable water, wastewater, stormwater in a fiscally responsible manner. And that's not happening. I read their traffic report, and 6 roads right near there fail already. 6 roads, not one. I talked to the county today. The Howland coming off I-4, it's rated an E out of A through F, means it's one step away from failing, right? FDOT knows this. That's why they're expanding I-4 there. When we talk future land use and those things, well, we got to get to the future, right? We're not there yet. We don't have the roads, we don't have the schools, and we don't have the water. All right, so I looked at the staff report. Is that my time?
Yes.
Okay. The staff report, it basically says that this land use is not, and we've already discussed it, is not consistent with an activity center.
Thank you, sir.
There's no activity going on here except for a developer trying to shoehorn in large.
George Protnick, please. George Protnick. James Bickart, please.
How you doing, gentlemen, miss? I'm Jim Bickart. I lived in Deltona had a house built here 38 years ago on Normandy. Used to be a dead end. I bought that. Used to be over a half acre. He took property away from me twice, no other houses around. Now I'm down to less than that. But I want to touch on something that he says about the retention ponds. That's not a retention pond. That's a natural sinkhole. That's a natural sinkhole. And that other lady that was talking, she don't live anywhere near where that thing is. She's going to get a study done on it. I am the closest house to Amazon. I'm right behind the old age home, North Normandy and Furwood there. All night long. Amazon trucks all night long because they miss the turn. They make U-turns around there all night long. That's all I hear is them things. Turning around, turning around. You must get a bunch of deliveries at night. They're not supposed to be coming in anyway, and that's it. But as far as that, I don't see how anything's going to improve doing that stuff because they're not even supposed to be coming through there with tractor trailers. But as far as anybody is an eyewitness, and she says they're doing a study, I am the best study person there is. Like I said, I've been there 38 years, been paying taxes. My taxes went up to $7,200. And Amazon, oh, we're going to get Amazon here. Your taxes are going to go down. This is everything. Your schools will be paid, everything. Everything went up. Everything went up. $7,200. My house insurance over taxes. So, like I said, I'm 73 years old. What are you going to do? Rip my house down and move off to a little condo or something? No, I don't believe that. But the traffic right now is bad enough with Amazon up there. And ever since Amazon got in there, my mail is screwed up. I don't get any deliveries from Medicaid and stuff like that. It's all screwed up. Everything's all screwed up with them up there. So I don't know. If you want to get a better eyewitness than me about traffic through there, I am the person. I am the closest house to Amazon right there. And when I built that house 37, 38 years ago, I paid $140,000 for that house. You know how much that was back then? That was a lot of money, right? And it was only one house over there, and it was a guy across the street I got that from, and I paid $15,000 for that property. And they're selling that property a little bit, that's over a half acre. Now they're selling it for $50,000, right? So I don't know what they're going to do with getting people to get them tractor trailers from stop. They come around, they make U-turns. They can't make the U-turns. They do K-turns. That's all I hear all night is these tractor trailers. And it's all the ones with the big smile face on their trucks. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. You want to make the matters worse, you're just going to make it worse and worse and worse. So that's all I can say, but I don't know. Amazon, that was a bad deal putting that in there anyway. But all right, God bless you guys.
That was the last person who was standing.
Is there anybody from the public that doesn't have standing that wants to participate?
Brandy White, please.
You're going to get a chance to rebuttal.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to have my attorney,
Yes,
Mark Watts.
It's on there.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bernie White, Deltona.
I appreciate the suggestion to table. I think that would be the smartest decision in this, outside of just flat out denying it. I like the suggestion of the C1. I would like some more information, whether it's publicly or however you want to disperse that, regarding the activity center overlay and how you apply that to an ag property without rezoning the ag property at the time. So there's some things I have some questions on, probably more legality-wise than anything else. If any of you guys want to sit with me, we can go over that. I'm not going to use my 4 minutes now on that. I do want to talk about, I heard the number of 18 owners. I believe that was a total. Previous rezoning would be like about 120 houses, if I remember correctly. So just in the multifamily dwelling that's listed now alone, it's almost 3 times what that property was designed to hold when we did our land use, right, when we planned it out. I have a hard time believing anybody's going to want to live in those apartments when all you're looking at is Amazon buildings and more warehouses, light industrial and office spaces. I don't know how much familiar you are with the ones right behind the racetrack, but they're not even at capacity. They're having trouble filling them. So I think they're giving out like 2 months free rent just to get people in there. So there are some concerns, obviously, with switching this. We don't have much ag left, so we keep talking about hearing about diversity, but we're getting rid of all the ag land that we have left. If you're not going to table this for more information, which I would highly suggest you do, I would suggest that you have to deny this just based on the data that's been presented here tonight, especially from somebody with some of the experience in engineering that we heard from. Thank you.
Christian O'Brien, please.
I'm going to ask the audience to respectfully hold the applause just because when we're calling other residents up, it's kind of hard for them to hear their name, please.
Hey everybody, Christian O'Brien. First off, welcome new commissioners, welcome city attorneys. Yeah, a lot of the, numbers and stuff were thrown around. What I would like to know, I do realize they're luxury apartments, but I would be very curious to know what the rents are going to be for these apartments. Considering their luxury, whether or not that's, I'll just put it this way, it's at the moment tone deaf for Deltona. If you go on the Facebook groups, there are already people struggling to survive. So I'm not really sure if luxury apartments are going to be best suited for the current residents of Deltona. So if they are built, we'll probably end up maybe getting some transplants. But again, it all comes down to if we are building all of these luxury apartments that are going to be relatively expensive and slightly higher than the cost of living that's in this current area, those people need jobs. So where are those jobs going to come from? Well, they're probably going to come from out of the city, which means, again, it's more people on I-4. So if you have, what was it, 234, whatever the number of apartments was, times 2 cars, everybody jumping on the I-4, it's just going to create more traffic, more congestion. So I agree. I do actually really like the C1 idea is really great. I'm always for more business infrastructure within the city. I'm glad it does bring some, but again, I would hope a reinforcement of more business would do that, because ultimately a lot of those light industrial jobs probably are not going to be able to afford $1,800 one-bedroom apartments. So that's just my 2 cents. Thanks.
That ends public comment.
Okay, at this time we'll have the rebuttal from the applicant's attorney.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. Welcome the new folks on the commission. It's good to see you. I'm Mark Watts with the law firm of Cobb Cole, 231 North Woodland Boulevard, DeLand. You've got a motion on the table and understand that. I think this is it's an important decision. So if there's the need for more time for the commission to talk about it, to understand it, we certainly understand and respect that. There were a couple of questions asked about some of the history here. And to address some of the comments that were made with regard to the existing zoning, I just wanted to offer a little bit of perspective with regard to the history and the overlay and how that all sort of has come to pass. One of the things that your staff report states is that you currently have R1AA zoning on the property. But based on the activity center overlay in your comprehensive plan, that zoning is actually inconsistent with the land use. And as most of you who've been up here know, and those of you who are joining will come to understand, the comp plan and the land use classifications govern over the zoning. So what we're required to do in order to build anything with regard to this property is rezone it to PUD. So your comp plan and your rules require this action to come before you and this action to take place. But again, there have been some important comments and questions raised. From a historical perspective, when the county originally adopted its comprehensive plan in 1990, so before the city of Deltona incorporated, the area around the interchange that, Howland and 472 was originally established as what was referred to as the Southwest Activity Center. So there was an activity center going back to the 1990s, early 1990s, that the county had for the areas around the interchange where we're talking now. In the early 2000s, the county, the city of Orange City, DeLand, and Deltona worked collaboratively on a development of regional impact for the interchange. And in effect, what the DRI did was take the place of the activity center that had been there since the early 1990s. And that DRI essentially created this mix of uses and an allocation of uses and acreages among the quadrants of that interchange, including the property that we're here talking about tonight. Fast forward, a decade or so, the development hadn't proceeded under the DRI. State laws were changing with regard to the use and applicability of DRIs. They were largely going away. So the DRI was abandoned by the county and the various municipalities that had signed on to it. And instead, you adopted basically the provisions of the DRI that related to the Deltona side of the interchange into your comprehensive plan. So the rules that we're working with regard to the property here and the mix of development that's required and the prohibition against single-family development have all kind of been, or can all be traced back to the early 1990s with the adoption of the county's original comprehensive plan. So plans have been in place, and the question was raised, what did the current owners, purchase the property with an expectation of? Well, it was the activity center, because that's what's been in place for, give or take, 34 years, with regard to the property. So that was the history. Hopefully that provided some clarity and background for those of you that had asked about it. There are some, again, good points raised, and if we need to take some more time to work through those. With regard to the question of the uses and the desire to have things that are more in keeping with C1 and some of those other, kind of uses that serve the existing population within Deltona. One of the things that Scott and his partners reviewed when they were going through this with the staff was the need for flex space, and so that's why the small-scale industrial was included. In addition, the mix of uses for those uses. So if you look at the development agreement, things like restaurants, medical, hotel, retail, convenience store are also included within the list of uses that are permissible within the non-residential portions
Thank you,
of this.
Mr. Watts.
So,
I appreciate it. Is there any questions from the commissioners for Mr. Watts? No questions?
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. At this time, we do have a motion and we have a second on the floor. Obviously, we have a verbal vote. If the city attorney can read the ordinance, and then the city clerk will do the vote.
Yes, prior to reading the ordinance, I just want to clarify the motion. Is this a deferral to a date certain, or this is tabling the item to be brought back at a future date? Thank you.
Can we quantify can we say that the
I'm sorry,
meeting?
sir, we're in the middle of a vote right now, so I apologize. Right now, there's no more public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Deltona, Florida, amending the official zoning map to rezone plus or minus 36.46 acres of land located along the North Normandy Boulevard corridor south and east of the I-4 Logistics Park within the Activity Center from single-family residential R1AA to mixed-use planned unit development MPUD, providing for conflict, severability, and an effective date.
Commissioner Avila-Vasquez? Are we doing verbal or?
It's a verbal, it's a quasi-judicial, we do verbal.
Yes. Commissioner Colwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Howington?
Yes.
Commissioner Lowly?
Yes.
Commissioner Santiago?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harriet?
Yes.
Mayor Avila?
Yes.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Motion passes 7-0. This time, we're going to go ahead and move to B, public hearing ordinance number 17-2024, amending section 110-806 fences, walls, and hedges of Article V8 supplementary regulations. Jordan.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission. Jordan Smith.
Jordan, can we give him just a minute so, because a couple of people are exiting the room. All right, thank you, Jordan. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Commission. Jordan Smith, Planning Director. So before you, we're recommending modifications to the fence ordinance. We're updating the 5-year survey requirements to allow surveys to depict current conditions of the property regardless of age, and this will follow other survey requirements for zoning permits. The removal of waterfront and golf course rear fence opacity requirements, requiring waterfront properties to have surveyed 2 years or less to ensure high water marks and FEMA information is correct. And then finally, amending materials, allowing galvanized metal or similar materials made for fences as approved by the building official and planning director. And those are the modifications to section 110.
We've got a question from Commissioner Caldwell.
Yes.
Yeah, by removing the opacity limits on that, that'll obstruct the view from surrounding homes in that area, or a viewing for the lake, is that correct?
Correct.
I'd like to make a motion to approve with the strike-through removed from the ordinance and to include the new survey requirements.
So moved.
Can you read?
Second.
We've got a motion made by Commissioner Caldwell, second by Commissioner Vasquez. Can you restate your motion?
I would like to approve this with the removal of the strike-through, limiting the opacity of the fences, but to include the survey, the new survey requirements.
We've got a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, could we do a vote? Let's go to public comment. Do you have any public comments?
This is an ordinance of the City of Deltona, Florida, amending Section 110-806, fences, walls, and hedges of Article 8, supplementary regulations of Chapter 110 zoning of the Land Development Code of the City of Deltona, providing for conflicts, codification, severability, and an effective date.
Are we doing verbal?
Yeah, are we doing?
Verbal was because it's quasi-judicial.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Motion passes 6-0. We're on to item C. Request approval for purchase of a Q sanitary sewer CCTV. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Public hearing resolution number 2024-66, approval to transmit the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee 2024 incentive review and recommendation report to the Florida Finance Corporation.
Good evening, Angela Briggs, Community Development Manager. The state of Florida requires that an entity that receives CHIP funding submit an annual report, also called an Affordable Housing Advisory Committee report or an AHAC report. That report is submitted annually. Tonight, we have our chairperson, Ms. Jody Pena-Castaldi. The committee consists of 8 members. In addition to Ms. Castaldi, we also have, we're required to have a commissioner that sits on that committee also. Our commissioner is Commissioner Avila Vasquez. We'd like to thank them for their help this year in getting the report done. The AHAC committee made six recommendations this year, and staff is going to ask the commission to approve these recommendations.
There's Commissioner Avila Vasquez is on the board. And just a quick point of order. For the last vote, I was going to vote yes, because I know I'm here, so I have to vote on that. Go ahead, Commissioner Avila Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. So just a little input on my side here. The reason why we have to turn in this report to the commission for a vote is that if we do not submit it, if it does not get approved and it does not get submitted to the state, we lose the funds. So just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Colwell?
Is there any notable changes from last year to present year?
Yes, sir. We had only about 5 or 6 changes, if you would like for me to review those, but they were mentioned in the report.
Okay. That's fine. Thank you.
Would you like for me to review them? You read it? Okay. Would any other commissioner? Okay.
If there are no other questions, I would like to make a motion.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I approve resolution number 2024-66 and transmit the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee 2024 incentive review and recommendations report to the Florida Finance Corporation.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Avila Vasquez, a second by Commissioner Santiago. Is there any public comment? All right. The commission can please vote. Motion passes 7-0. This time before. All right, at this time before we go on to consent agenda items, do any of the commissioners want to pull any of the letters before we go to public comment on consent items?
Yes, Mayor.
Which ones?
For clarification purposes, I would like to pull E.
E as in Edward?
As in Edward, and A in action item 10.
So action item is a different,
Yes.
it's a different category. So when we get to that one, we
Okay.
can, yeah, because those are separate.
Okay.
All right, so we only have E. Do any of the commissioners wish to pull any other consent agenda items before we go to public comment? All right, do we have any public comment? None? All right, can I get a motion on A, B, A through D, and F?
So moved.
Second.
Through H. There's a motion by Commissioner Avila Vasquez to approve
Yes.
A, B, C, D, F, G, H, and a second by Commissioner Lully.
Mayor?
You pulled A, right?
No.
No, I pulled D, but I also want in addition to H, if I may, request recognition of the month of November. I also would like to add to that to allow the Deltona High School Band to come and play at the meeting. They would request it if they can come and play at least 2 Christmas songs.
Okay, so we'll just have to redo your motion, so you'll have to retract your second.
Yeah, I retract my second.
And then you can just redo your motion.
Okay, so...
Sorry, Joyce, I know you're...
So I move to approve consent agenda A, B, C, D, F, G, H, And for the H, I would like to add the Deltona High School Band to be approved to come and play at the December meeting, play 2 Christmas songs.
Motion to approve everything from A to H?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not on Robert's Rules of Orders. We just got to pull H if we're going to change it, right? So
We could, that'll be easier, Commissioner, to pull H, and then we can get that changed.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to make sure she gets what she needs.
Yeah.
So the motion on the table is to approve everything from A to...
Well, okay, my motion is to approve A, B, C, D, F, G.
Okay.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Villa-Vasquez and a second by Commissioner Lully. Seeing that there is no public comment, can we please vote? Motion passes 7-0. This time, we're going to go ahead and talk about E, request for approval of resolution number 2024-62, declaring certain property of the city as surplus and authorizing the sale or disposal of such property. Commissioner Villa-Vasquez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I would like a little bit clarification on what does this mean, because I was a little bit confused. I know that we spoke about it, or I spoke about it with the city manager, but just so the residents understand, because when I read it, I thought it was land that we were vacant land or buildings. City manager?
Thank you, Robin.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners and Mayor, so thank you. Ma'am, this is in reference to equipment. In most cases, some of it's small equipment, some small office items, some of it's a larger equipment. I mean, we have some vehicles on there that we're actually putting out to auction. It's that type of thing. I don't have the list in front of me, but I don't recall any land on there. We wouldn't typically surplus land, but if you see something on there, maybe we mistyped something, and I'd be glad to look at it, or if Glenn has something on there that I'm not aware of from Deltona Water. Okay. But it's just the miscellaneous items. A lot of them are vehicles and that type of thing.
I think the confusion was we used the word property. So
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So-
Yes, it just says certain property of the city surplus.
We can
So
change it to assets in the future so that it's very clear. How's that?
Thank you.
And then we'll remove property.
Thank you, Robin.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other questions, Commissioner Villa-Vasquez? Okay, so at this time, I'm going to entertain a motion for letter E.
Motion to approve letter E.
Second.
There's a motion by Vice Mayor Harriet and a second by Commissioner Villa-Vasquez. I'm going to mess up your Vice Mayor thing once or twice, just FYI. Motion passes 7-0. This time, we're going to move to letter, I'll get to it. Letter H, which is request for recognition of the month of November. Commissioner Villa-Vasquez, you wanted to add?
Yes, so the Deltona Band reached, I believe it was a finalist during a contest, and I'm requesting that they be given a recognition. But I also want to request, or they are also requesting that they be given the opportunity to come and play 2 songs at the December meeting.
Okay, would you like to make that motion?
So move.
Or I can make the motion.
I made it.
Oh, you made it?
Second.
I can't hear from this here, I'm sorry. There's a motion to request for recognition for the month of November. 1, Proclamation 2024 Small Business Saturday. 2, band recognition and performance on December 9th, Deltona High School Blue Brigade Marching Band. And 3, for the Deltona High School Blue Brigade Marching Band to do 2 Christmas songs. And it was second by Commissioner Colwell. I know Joyce is a lot happier with that.
No, it's just when I start typing.
I give up.
Anytime you hit the button, it deletes my motion, so the motion will be wrong.
All right. Motion passes 7-0. All right, this time we're going to go ahead and enter into action items. Request for approval of an agreement with NFP Retirement, Inc. to provide investment advisory, compliance, and plan education services for employee 401A and 457B deferred compensation plans. Robin?
Thank you again, Mayor, Commissioners. So this is basically a pass-through. So NFP is a company that the city has used for about 10 years. They represent as a existing byproduct for the citizens, or for the employees, excuse me. There are employees on this committee. They're able to reach out to them, ask them questions, but they're also through Mission Square and Nationwide, two of the companies. We utilize those two companies and their investments, and this company actually lets all of us know that those investments really are meeting the expectations. The 30 basis points plus the 5 basis points are basically a pass-through in the sense that Mission Square and Nationwide have reduced their fees by that amount. Those dollars then pass on to NFP, but do not pass through the city nor our employees in that respect. So it's just a consulting service that has been utilized for years as a third party, so that we don't have Mission Square and Nationwide directly working with our employees.
Commissioner Avila Vasquez and Commissioner Colwell.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is something that the city is already using, that the employees are already using here at the city?
Yes, ma'am. So like for the Milton, so if there was a need in order for any of our employees to, let's say they wanted a emergency loan, they needed to repair their home that live here. We have about just under 200 employees that live in the city. They could have utilized this service, through any of the providers, Nationwide or Mission Square, but they can also reach out to NFP. There's a quick process by which they can ask for a loan and utilize some of their investment monies. So NFP really processes and facilitates that process for the employee.
And this is a free service, or are you saying that they have to pay with their investment funds?
So Mission Square and Nationwide have reduced their fees by the dollar amount that NFP actually collects, which is about 30,000, 35,000 in basis points, 30 basis points. So the fees do come from the reduction in fees that is normally passed on to the employees, but it goes directly to NFP. So there is a fee, but it doesn't come from the employees and it doesn't come from the city. It's through the reduction in the rate directly from Nationwide and directly from Mission Square. From those two providers, they pay NFP. We do not.
And this is currently exactly what's going on right now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, since about 2010, 2009, 2010.
Thank you.
Commissioner Santiago.
You answered my question. I just wanted to make sure there's no cost to the city. It's just if the employees want to use it, it's there for them. It's
there. The third party, that's correct,
Okay.
is there for them. But it's also there for the city. So we meet with them on a quarterly basis. There are team members from the employees that are part of that, as well as directors. So again, so that we're looking at the investments that are being offered. It's an opportunity to change those investments. So if we see a small cap works better than something else, then you can make those changes. Nationwide and Mission Square are involved in that, but it goes through them.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Colwell.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Colwell to approve and a second by Commissioner Harriet. Is there any public comment? Motion passes 7-0. At this time, we're going to go ahead and move to B, request for approval of award RFP number 24028 for collection agency services to RTR Financial Services, Inc.
I'll make a motion to approve this item.
Who is speaking on this? Okay. And there's a motion by Commissioner Harriet.
Second.
Second by multiple folks. Second by Commissioner Santiago. Is there any public comment on this? All right. There's a question. Go ahead, Commissioner Cole.
The collection, would that include any fines and fees for code enforcement?
Any fines at all, any fees at all, yes. At this point in time, I think there was some discussion whether or not it included like the ambulance, but that's a county, that's not part of our fees. So it's any fee within the city would apply until we actually go through and scrub the entire list, and then going forward, it would be those fees that are, existing at that point in time. The first time could be some fees that were years ago.
Cool. Thank you.
Motion passes 7-0. Jordan's already coming up. Section C, request approval for proportionate fair share agreement of Catalina Point Residential PUD, ARPA.
Good evening. This is a proportionate fair share for Catalina Point Residential PUD. It's located at the intersection of Howland Boulevard and Catalina Boulevard. Catalina Point was approved by the Commission on January 17, 2023 for 277 residential dwelling units and a commercial development. The Catalina Point final plat was approved by the Commission on September 4, 2024. Per the development agreement, a tri-party agreement shall be drafted to provide for proportionate share of proposed off-site improvements and shall be a condition of starting construction. The tri-party agreement needs to be finalized and accepted by the city and county prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy. The amount of $548,312 is the proportionate fair share and is the total amount due for the project. If not paid within 1 year, then the outstanding balance of the proportionate fair share shall be revised based on the CPI. If the proportionate fair share is not paid prior to December 31st, 2025, then the traffic impact analysis shall be revised and the proportionate fair share shall be recalculated. If the developer fails to commence construction of the project within 24 months of the date of this agreement, the agreement and the certificate of concurrency approval issued by the city shall be null and void, and the developer should be required to reapply. And the city of Deltona will receive approximately $277,000 in impact fees from Catalina Point. And since the project is within the city but on a county road, the city is required to approve a proportionate fair share before the county can move forward. And the applicant's attorney is here for any questions.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Commissioner Santiago, then Commissioner Crowell, then Vice Mayor Harriet.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the proportionate fair share agreement for Catalina Point RPUD.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Santiago, second by Commissioner Howington. Commissioner Colwell, then Vice Mayor Harriet, then Commissioner Lilly.
I've spoken with you in great lengths in regards to this. I'm very concerned about the proportionate fair share being paid all in one lump sum up front. It's my understanding that this project can be done in phases, which could mean this could draw out for 10, 15 years. They're going to base it on phase one being completed, applying for financing, and so on and so forth. The city of Deltona stands to lose a lot of money doing it this way. Without reevaluating the fair share and the traffic impacts as each phase progresses. How do we change that? How do we address that?
So a lot of that has been addressed in the revised proportionate fair share agreement, and I'm going to defer to the applicant's attorney to address your concerns in regards to that.
I believe they have a year, correct, and then it gets reevaluated?
Yeah, but that's not for the entire project. That's just for phase one.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Joey Posey, 420 South Nova, attorney for the applicant. And yeah, there a lot of the nuts and bolts of this have, this is a very unique prop share agreement in that you usually don't see this level of detail when it comes to the prop share that's paid towards the county. This is usually an agreement that memorializes the contribution towards county-related impacts. And then on the city side, if it's collected in terms of impact fees, that those would be due and payable at the current rate at the time of construction. So the prop share is a portion of the project's impacts that's paid towards the county's impacts, which is fine. That's that's a fine, usually if you want to deviate and to address concerns as they come, because, again, we want to see this project built too. Part of that language that we added to maybe tweak that is, usually these agreements are through the TIA horizon date. So we said, well, we're looking to get this done sooner rather than later, so let's push that up. Let's add a CPI inflationary index after the first year. If that doesn't trigger in about a year and a month, it's at the end of next year, we have to come and do a full TIA again, which is a very unusual part of the process. And that's the assurance we're trying to give you guys that this isn't something that's going to sit around. And then even beyond that, we decided, well, even if you gave us our concurrency approval in 24 months, we'll have to go right back through the process if we don't start. And that's the commitment we're making to the city. We're trying to address those concerns because from our perspective too, sitting around and doing nothing is not in our best interest either. And, as part of the administrative process of addressing the county's related impacts, that's what this agreement memorializes. It doesn't otherwise vest those impact fees that would be due for this project, which would be due and payable when you go to construction. So, I think you get the best of both worlds in that way, where you can hold the county accountable to an extent to say, look, you guys got to revisit this if we're sitting on our hands. But at the same time, you're also not losing out on those impact fees that would otherwise be due and payable when we go to construct, which is the commitment you're asking for. So that's how we've addressed it. Again, we're trying to do our best to be responsive to all concerns we hear, but in terms of trying to keep this thing moving on the typical process, we're trying to keep this thing for getting it constructed, and not and again, I do recognize your concerns, Commissioner, and we want to be responsive too. So
my concern isn't the start date. My concern is the completion date. Again, the economy changes. Right. 5 years into the project, the economy crashes. They can't get financing for the rest of the phases, and then we're stuck holding the bag again.
Well,
and they have the vested rights for the original prop share that they've already paid.
Well, I would respectfully disagree. In the way it's structured, if let's suppose hypothetically we do phase one and then we have to come back and don't pay into the full prop share, we still owe you impact fees at the current rate. And if the market, there's a downturn, if there's a re-rate assessment on the impact fees, there will be a readjustment up that we would have to be contributing towards that if that scenario plays out. And just as much as the developer's absorbing that risk, that insulates the city even more to say, look, if you guys, worst case scenario, get halfway through your project and you didn't pay your full prop share, well, that doesn't relieve you from the substantial amount of impact fees. The prop share, if I remember correctly, is half of the impact fees due on the county side, and it is none of the impact fees due on the city side. So, they might wind up with a much larger contribution if they sit on their hands, which is that accountability you want as you're moving through the project. So, besides losing their vesting on the prop share, they're also risking the impact fees that would otherwise be due and payable on the project. So, I think it gets you to the point where you get that certainty, and the developer can absorb a little more of that risk to ensure that that project's constructed.
Vice Mayor Harriet, and then Commissioner Lully.
What is the intent to complete this project from?
Well, they definitely want to get started first quarter of next year. That's the goal. And honestly, the sooner the better. I would expect a few build out for the full thing. But again, it really is it's a function of timing. That as this thing comes online, as you see a little bit of success, that's what's green light the next phase. And again, I can't dismiss that. You may wind up with that subsequent phase being shelved. That is a possibility, but at the same time, that's a risk on the developer's side because they risk their approvals, they risk their vesting on their impact fees or their prop share. They risk they risk that there may be a reassessment of impact fees. So that's probably a safe timeline that, getting that first quarter done and then looking at it from a few-year horizon at a full build-out. But it's an it depends answer outside of that first phase, depending on the success, because everybody wants to see this thing constructed too.
You've got to understand where we are at on the city, at the city level, where we've already got a few developments that have begun, completed a phase, and now are sitting vacant for subsequent phases, and that doesn't benefit the city either. So
Agree. And I appreciate that. And that was part of the reason we wanted to craft some of this language into this prop share agreement, to give you guys that assurance that if that does happen, it's on us. We're taking the risk. We're risking the reassessment of the impact fees of the prop share if we don't build. So that creates that incentive to get this thing done.
Commissioner Lally?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for giving us an explanation. You said this was unusual. What made it unusual, I guess, if you could summarize?
Sure. Well, in the typical process, when you pay county-related impacts, the reason you run into these tri-party agreements is to ensure that the reviewing agency, in this case, which would be the city, is making sure that there's a collection and being done, because from the county side, they're not doing that accounting. That accounting occurs at the staff level through the site plan approvals to the subdivision approvals, and then that payment's made to the county consistent with those approvals. So this is a little different in that you're seeing more teeth on the city side to what would be a county-related impact, which is fine, but that's I guess, at a high level, the difference that you usually would see.
Who did you work with on the city side for this?
Oh, your planning staff and your traffic consultants, and everybody's been wonderful on our side, so on your side. So
thank you,
don't get
staff,
me wrong.
for putting more teeth in it. Thank you. One other question. This might be for staff. This vote has no regard on whether or not the development moves forward, right? Because that was all done before my time. I think I was here for a couple of the votes. I mean, it's going back almost 2 years, right?
Correct. This project was already approved by the commission.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Commissioner Vila Vasquez?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. So when this project first came to us, there was a restaurant involved in there. And that's one of the reasons, I guess, that we were so excited. And then you guys came back and poof, the restaurant was gone. So we were a little bit disappointed on that as well.
Sure, if you want to.
Is there any plan, or has anything happened with that piece of land that the restaurant is supposed to have been taking place in?
So this proportionate fair share is just for the residential portion. The commercial portion is still there, and the commercial portion will come back because they're going to need a proportionate fair share as well. So the commercial portion has not disappeared from this project.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment?
Brandy White, please.
My question was answered, thank you.
Please vote. Motion passes 5-2. Thank you. This time we're going to move to request approval to issue a blanket purchase order to SAC Construction LLC located in Apopka, Florida, in the amount of $1 million for sanitary sewer rehabilitation, services of gravity sewers, pipelines, and conduits utilizing piggyback of the City of Port St. Lucie competitive bid contract number 201-80197. Vice Mayor Harriet.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for staff. Is this the first time we've used this contract, or did we use this contract last year as well?
Jim Parrish, Deputy Utility Director. This is the first time that we've used SAK. In the past, we've used a company called Granite Inliner. They were, during our budget process, they were actually purchased through a private acquisition, and they're no longer performing that service under their contracts in this area. So at a rather quick pace, we had to find a competitively paced bid. So we went out to some of our other partner utilities in the area, found a contract that was competitively bid that provided the same services that we do, that we've been doing for the city for the past 3 years for the same dollar amount of $1 million. So we went to SAK. They said that they do have the means, the ability. They're in the area in Apopka, and that they're willing to do the service for us. The intention of the city is to get through this year with them, since we were, it was kind of sprung on us during the middle of the budget season, and then go out with our own competitively paced bid for next budget season.
Thank you. Last question. How much did we spend on this task last year?
$1 million.
So we
Past
maxed it
3
out.
years, it's been $1 million.
Okay. Thank
Or
you,
as
sir.
close to it as possible, within a few $100s.
So I have a question, then I'll go to Commissioner Santiago, then Commissioner Lully. The people that we were using in the past, how much was our limit that we were paying them?
$1 million.
It was $1 million.
Each year, we had a blanket PO for $1 million for Granite Inliner for the past 3 years to do the same work.
And look, we need a lot of this stuff. I'm not trying to, fight against it. I just have an issue with a blanket purchase order for $1 million.
Right.
That's my only problem.
The situation and the way that, and it may be termed incorrectly as blanket, but what it is we have $1 million that we intend to be able to spend on this particular type of service with them. We know that in some of the literature that I provided, that for the $1 million of what the service that we're provided, it's $52 per linear foot that's actually being performed. So that $52 per linear foot for $1 million will get you about 19,000 linear foot that's completed in a year's time. We have 91 miles of gravity sanitary sewer, which is approximately 480,000 linear feet. If we only do 19,000 linear feet per year, it's going to take us 25 years to fulfill all 91 miles of this. We do have holes in different joints. There's root intrusions that happens in gravity sewer lines. So all of those items contribute to infiltration of groundwater into the sanitary sewer system. So we need to eliminate that groundwater level into there. So that's why we're doing the service.
And my last question before we go to Commissioner Santiago, and we're sure that we've done $1 million in the past for the last 3 years or the last 2 years?
Last 2 years. This will be the third year.
Commissioner Santiago?
I think you answered most of my question. I just want to move to approve and authorize the issuance of a blanket purchase order to SAK Construction LLC located in Apopka, Florida, and in the amount not to exceed $1 million for the sanitary sewer rehab services of gravity sewers, pipelines, and conduits, utilizing the piggyback of the City of Port St. Lucie's competitive bid contract number 201-80197.
Second.
So motion by Commissioner Santiago, second by Vice Mayor Harriet. Commissioner Lully is still on the board.
Jim, I'm going to have to come ask you again. I'm sorry. I'm like, don't run away. What's the alternative to this? If this was voted down, what would be the alternate procedure?
Okay, so one of the reasons why we do this is several years back, the city was put under what's called a consent order because we had sanitary sewer overflows at a lift station. And the Florida Department of Environmental Protection said, hey, y'all need to go out and y'all need to do an I&I study, which we did, cost us a lot of money, and it found that we had approximately 660 gallons per minute of infiltration that came into the city sanitary sewer system whenever we had high groundwater levels. That 660 gallons per minute equates to about 950 million gallons in a 24-hour period of time of just groundwater level that's coming into the wastewater treatment plants and overwhelming the system. Okay, so if we do not reduce the I&I that's in the consent order, then they can give us fines. They can not allow us to continue with our staff for operation of our wastewater plants or our sanitary sewer system. They can impose a great deal of restrictions on any sort of expansion that you have, which will limit any additional flow and development that comes into the sanitary sewer system.
You can go more into the weeds for me if you don't mind. So breaking this down, like if you wanted to go out to X location and do this, you'd have to come back to us every time for a purchase order? Is that what it is?
Yes.
How many would that be? I'm just curious.
We roughly do about $87,000 per month.
Okay.
Our threshold limit is $25,000 with city manager approval. So we would be coming back at a great deal of pace in order to get approval for this, because what we just spoke about before in one of the other agenda items was our sanitary sewer camera truck. So we go out, we do work, we identify areas that have groundwater infiltration through them through the use of our camera system. When we identify that, we then see what length of it is and what the total amount of run is going to be. We then go to our contractor and say, we need this lining to be done. They go out and they do the work. Under having to get approval each time, we would delay that process by potentially a month. Each time we locate those and we find those, while we do the agenda items, we wait for the meeting to happen and then come back. So in giving approval, if we know that we're going to spend and we've budgeted for the $1 million, it helps us to be more efficient and allow our contractor to work at a feverish pace for us to get this accomplished before we start getting into high groundwater season.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Is there any public comment?
Carolyn Hickerson, please.
I need the World Book Encyclopedia edition of City Government for Dummies, because, okay, so these are dumb questions, okay, because I don't know. One, blanket. Two, if we're spending $1 million a year for this will be the third year, why are we continuing having failures? Is $1 million, is it fixable that we're not spending $1 million a year? These are dumb questions I don't know the answers to because I don't know. So, and if this is, and again, a dumb question, okay, this is Port St. Lucie we're piggy banking on, which is 2.5 hours away. Is this something that is municipality, along the road? I'm not, because I don't understand it. I don't know. So I'm just looking for why do we continue to spend $1 million a year? Do we have failures that we're just not addressing and we can't fix the problem? And so, yeah, I just need the book for dummies because I don't know.
Brandy White, please.
Brandy White, Deltona. Okay, and everything that was said makes sense. My question is, $78K a month spent, how much of that $78K is at 25,000 and above increments? So that would be my first question, because we may spend $78,000, but if it's a bunch of little projects, $10K here, $15K here, really what we only need approval for maybe once a month, right? And if we're doing these based on these CCTV findings, based on the truck we just paid for, then we have a pretty good idea of where the failure is based on that. It's not a sudden failure if we're looking based on the findings, right? So it's not something that we're already aware of right at this moment. You're already having to locate it through the camera lines, right? So I just think listen, three years, we've budgeted for $1 million and we've hit $1 million every year. Yeah. I mean, so if we make it for 2, are we going to hit 2? If we make it for 500, are we just going to hit 500 somehow because we were able to save? I don't know. It just seems to me it's a little odd that we blanket, which, let's be realistic, the word's blank. It's not so much blanket, it's a blank check for up to $1 million of spending with no oversight from you, at least. We have staff oversight. No oversight from you. I think if we already have 25,000 and under doesn't need your oversight, I'm just curious realistically, how many times do we have a purchase that goes over that? That might be a good start to understand how necessary this is. Thank you.
That ends public comment.
Thank you. Let's go for a vote. Motion passes 5-2. All right. We're going to go to consideration of one appointment of a city representative to Team Volusia's Executive Committee and Board of Directors. City Clerk.
So this one requires an application. I believe this one was formerly Vice Mayor Jody Lee. It does not ask for an alternate. You just have to appoint someone to represent the city.
Does anybody want to make a suggestion on who to appoint on the dais? Commissioner Santiago?
Yes, I'd like to make a...
You'll get used to it.
I know, yeah, sorry. I move to appoint Vice Mayor Harriet as the city's representative to both Volusia, Team Volusia's Executive Committee and the Board of Directors.
No.
Commissioner, Vice Mayor Harriet has respectfully declined.
Please no. I'd like to ask, is there anybody up here that is
Does anybody want to participate in this?
interested in Team Volusia?
So, does somebody want to make a motion? Commissioner
I'd like to make
Howington.
the motion for Commissioner Howington to be appointed to the Team Volusia.
Yes, please. Because Joyce is already looking at me.
Sorry, Joyce. I take that back.
There was not a second.
I'll second it as long as the person chosen wants to do it.
Okay.
Are you seconding my motion? Or Commissioner Howington?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Is there any public comment? No? Okay. All right. Motion passes 7-0. You can now try to find us that $70,000 savings. Bad joke. Okay, we're going to move forward. Consideration of one appointment and one alternate appointment to River to Sea Transportation Planning Organization. This one does have an appointee and an alternate. City Clerk.
Correct. I believe Commissioner, and I didn't write it, so I apologize, but I believe it was Commissioner McCool that was the appointee, and then I believe Vice Mayor Jody Lee was the alternate at the time. So, and this doesn't need any application or anything. I'll just forward the names over to Volusia County.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Commissioner Lully as the appointee and Vice Mayor Harriet as their alternate. There's a second by Commissioner Howington. Is there any public comment?
Can I ask a legal question just before we move on? For our attorneys, I work in the space. Is that okay if I'm the designee for that, as long as I'm not voting at the TPO to award my employer money?
We likely would need to sit down with you to talk about specifically what work you're doing with respect to this. I imagine we could have a discussion pretty quickly and just go over what work you're doing and see and be able to give you an opinion. But we need a little more detail on what exactly the work that your employer and or you do for your employer.
Okay. So, I mean, could we move ahead then with the vote under that caveat that I'll sit down and if we can come back to the full commission if there's an issue?
That would be fine.
Okay.
All right. Can we go for the vote, please? Commissioner Howington. Motion passes 6-1. He just doesn't want to be on any board.
He's just a hard no man all night.
No, that was the one I wanted.
Oh.
Well,
I
all right. We're going to move. Go ahead. Yeah, please.
Thank you. So I just want to make a comment on these boards. I know it sounds exciting and they sound really nice to be part of it, but we all have to remember that the most important part is that we attend all these meetings. I did not volunteer for any because I already have enough on my plate. But please, if you cannot make any of these meetings, if you're going to find it a conflict, just let us know so that somebody else who's interested can take it over. Thank you.
This time we're going to go to city attorney comments.
Mayor, thank you so much. We just want to thank you all so much for bringing us on to the team here at the City of Deltona. It's truly been an honor so far to get to work with this incredible commission and the incredible staff. So we're just very grateful, and we're happy to be of service to the community. We did want to let everyone know, and a big shout out to the city manager, his staff, and the Public Information Office for pushing this out on social media and on the website. But we are having, the city's holding a city attorney meet and greet tomorrow evening at the center at Deltona, which is at 1640 Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard. It will be from 6:30 to 8 p.m. I'll be there along with Zachary Good, and we'll be doing a presentation about our firm, about the work we do, the role of the city attorney here at the City of Deltona. We'll be taking questions from the public and anyone who likes to attend, and then we'll be doing a meet and greet and having an opportunity to talk with people one-on-one. So we'd love for the residents of Deltona to join us. We will have light refreshments, and we will be there until 8 o'clock. So thank you so much.
City manager comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few events. We in the future will be listed under the community events. Just want to let everyone know, December 1st, City Hall, a mailbox will be out for letters to Santa to receive a response from Santa Claus starting December 1st. Will end about December 19th, I believe. Holiday lighting competition. You have up till December 13th to register anywhere throughout the city. If you're interested, you're decorating your house, you would actually apply yourself. Not a neighbor can appoint you, but you would apply yourself to the city website, and this will all be on the city website information. Each of the districts, 6 districts, will have 5 winners. 4 will be honorable mention, 1 will be a district champion, and then here at the council meeting of all the 6 districts, we'll pick 1 grand champion for the entire city. So that's house decorating. If you do decorate your house, you want to be recognized, just check out the city website. Third one is New Year's Eve celebration, first time at the center. Whether you're a couple looking for a place to go or a group of friends, 8, 10 friends want to get together, New Year's Eve celebration at the center. Food all night, desserts, DJ, large screen television with the ball drop, and fun, a lot of dancing and enjoyment. So that's New Year's Eve at the center. And just want to point out somebody in the audience, often talked about but rarely ever seen. She is real. She is 85. She is my mother, Rita Doherty, also known as the Iron Maiden. There she is. She made it. Thank you very much.
Okay. We're going to start with city commission comments and requests. For the new commissioners up here, I usually do them in the order of districts. So apologies to District 6, you're last usually, aside from us two. But Commissioner Santiago?
Thank you, Mayor. Just really quick, I just have 2 items. The first one, if you haven't heard, the Deltona Wolves 12U football team had an incredible season. They claimed the East Coast Conference title, winning the regional championship, and finishing the season undefeated. So I wanted to request that the Wolves be recognized with a proclamation. I guess we have to schedule it in the next commission meeting to get approval, and then after that, have them come in January. I think it's an amazing community achievement, and we really need to celebrate their success. And the other event that I wanted to talk about was where the Hispanic Association, with the partnership of the City of Deltona, will be having a Spanish Christmas carol called Parandas at the Amphitheater. We'll have food trucks, coffee, hot chocolate. We'll have a bicycle raffle. It's scheduled for Saturday, December 7th, 7 to 9 p.m. behind the Deltona Library. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Avila Vasquez?
Thank you, Mayor. So I just really, going back to residents' concerns and comments, reconsider the public comments going back to 6:30 p.m. I was going to talk about the status of the flood homes, but I think we spoke about that. And then I know that Brandy spoke about the Lakeshore project, I think. I also have spoken to City Manager. We can also please get an update on that. Glenn? I also would like to call a workshop early next year for AHAC. We need to decide what we want to do with the AHAC project. Some people don't qualify. Some people who qualify are afraid of the rules. So we need to...
Commissioner Avila, just really quick, do you want us to get a timeline for that request for the Lakeshore project?
No, whenever he's... I know they're very busy with what's going on. Whenever he's got the... I know it'll be sometime early next year that he's going to be bringing it up. So the AHAC workshop, I would like to request that. I also want to give a shout out to the Parks and Recs for the veterans who put this together, the veterans event at the Veterans Park. It was awesome. And an invite to VIMA. They're having the PTSD event December 7th at the Deltona Plaza from 11 to 5. VIMA is the bikers that are veterans, firefighters, and law enforcers. So everybody please join us. And I just want to make a comment. I know that we all received, I know I received a letter from Chairman Jeff Brower. I did call them back because I couldn't understand exactly what he was requesting from us. I didn't receive a call back, so I just don't want to bring it up again until they tell us exactly what they're looking for or what he's looking for, but he's coming up with a temporary moratorium on new residential development countywide. So I know that we all received this, so let's all take a look at it. I'm hoping I get a comment or a call back from his secretary sometime this week, and then we can discuss this going forward. You didn't receive it?
I don't think so.
You didn't get it? Oh, so I'm the only important person here? No. I'll have him share it. Thank you.
That's it?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Commissioner Howington?
I would like to make one request of the commission. I think that the community's seen a lot of dysfunction within the commission, and I'd like to invite everybody to do an escape room kind of as a team building activity. I think it would probably help us get along a little bit better, work together. I did run it past Doc, so if we can get it through legal and everything, I'd like to pay for everybody to attend, and then hopefully we can start functioning a little bit more as a team.
Do we let's go down the...
Sure, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you're putting me, yes. Only if we can have a camera that records the whole thing. No, yes.
Commissioner Avila Vasquez.
We've been functioning as a team as it is, but yes.
Commissioner Colwell. Yes. Only if I can make assurances that I come out of that escape room. Okay, yes. There are no guarantees. So, well, you might get Davison as your next mayor, and then. Anyways, anything else, Commissioner Howington?
That's all.
Legal, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, we will provide a legal analysis for you as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm just not used to that speed. No disrespect to anybody. Commissioner Howington, anything else? No? Commissioner Colwell?
Yes, I want to encourage all the residents to come out to the meet and greet for our new city attorneys.
Yes.
I would also like to direct our city attorney to get a written opinion from the Florida Ethics Committee regarding the spouse of the City of Deltona Commissioner Santiago and their business dealings as it pertains to the city business.
We can request a written opinion. It can take a substantive amount of time, 4 to 8 weeks, but we can request it, and they'll usually give us an estimate on a timeline.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lally?
Thank you, Mayor. This could be a little long, and sorry, guys. I just wanted to go over some things that I've heard the last week, provide some information as being one of the newest members on the dais. To all 5 of you who are left, and our television audience, there's our camera. My phone number, my city cell phone number is 386-507-1994. My city email is nlully@deltonafl.gov. I just wanted to make sure everyone got that. Please contact me at any time. I respond to every email. I wanted to go over some of the events that I covered or I was at the last week since our last meeting. This is our first business meeting. We had, of course, our swearing in. Then we had our Veterans Day event. I thought that was tremendous. Love any opportunity to honor our veterans. Thank you to Commissioner Villa-Vasquez for helping pin my poppy. I'm always on the struggle with making sure I look good, so appreciate that. Thank you. And then afterwards, I got to meet our city attorney team for the first time. Appreciate you meeting and looking forward to only great things ahead. I know we kind of have talked about it a little bit, but I did get an email from Carolyn, who's still here in our audience, about a public comment. I think Commissioner Villa-Vasquez covered that in her section. We also, I got an email from Terry Ellis, who was forwarding me some suggestions. One of them was about the, I think it was the water department response time. I think we already got an answer on that. So we've, per our tremendous staff, we've improved some of our response times at the water department when folks call in over the past few years. And again, I'll continue to work through some of those items that Terry shared with me. I received a couple items from former Commissioner Tom Burbank about some boats on city property. We could talk about that offline, but just wanted to raise that. Also about recycling old campaign signs. I don't know if we have any. I saw some the other day behind the building somewhere. If we still have any left over that are unclaimed, I was wondering if we could participate in the Supervisor of Elections program to recycle those, if we have any left. Be good use of that. Then I just want to go over a couple of things that we heard in public forum. We heard from Terry Ellis, who wanted to focus on communication, respect. I think that we're working as a body towards mutual respect, both amongst ourselves and with the community. I know I've committed to that. Also, some concerns about the public forum that we'll keep in mind. Albert Bryan talked about the public forum. He brought up an issue about an HR complaint. I have not received that. Certainly, when we do, we can bring that up. But for now, we're going to stick to our city policy and protect anyone who's been involved in that on either side. Let's see. We heard from Brandy White about a question about Boswell at Coriander, about an area I think that's not paved, that we would like to get paved or looking to getting that paved, so if that's something we can look into as well. Storm debris pickup. I know that is a long, arduous process, and I actually heard from someone today about that. And again, just for our citizens in Richmond, if you're not aware, this is a very layered process with storm debris pickup, because we are trying to follow the FEMA, I hope we're trying to follow the FEMA guidelines in order to get our maximum reimbursement for that. Of course, if we just take that to the landfill with Waste Pro, we're going to pay the tipping fees, and next summer we'll be talking about why we are in the hole on the solid waste budget. Great point about the center. I thought that too on the couple times I drove through with the pavement markings. I'd like to see if we can look into that as well to cover that. I know one of my colleagues covered the Lakeshore boat ramp, so I'm on board with that as well, and hearing more about that. Just running through the list here. Kathy Bryan brought up Vision 2050. I know in my inbox today late, I got an invite to our next workshop and final workshop for that. So again, if she's watching at home or watches the playback on this, we are getting that on the schedule. What's the date?
December 16th.
December 16th. So we are, and I'm looking forward to that, and I believe I got some background on that today. Guys, I promise I'm almost done. We heard from Jim Pesha about public forum, and he has high hopes for the new commission. I have high hopes as well. We also heard from Kenneth Kuhn about a temporary moratorium. I don't know if that's what was in the letter from Mr. Brown. I didn't get the letter. I would like to have a conversation about what that means. I think that was kind of to your point as well, Commissioner.
Commissioner, I will forward it to Sandy and Bridget so that she can forward it to all the other commissioners.
So the city manager has it. I forwarded to him 2 days ago or a day ago.
Okay.
Whenever it was. Yeah.
Thank you. And again, to that citizen's point, we need to figure out what exactly all that means before we take action or comment on that. So we talked about Lakeshore. Some of my other requests I had, and I don't know if we do a consensus on this, or if someone can just provide me the information. These are things in my district. Project Lemonade, which is Starbucks at Cortland and Fort Smith. If we could get an update on that. I see the trees marked, and I've heard about it. I just haven't seen any action in the actual building, so I just didn't know if we were somewhere in the process of that. So I wanted an update on that, and then also where we're at with the Monument Drive pumping station project. Hurricane Milton, 2 years after Ian, I had many neighbors of mine flooded again as well. So if we could get an update on that so I can just kind of wrap my brain around what our expectations are moving forward. And then finally, last but not least, love the city attorney meet and greet. I'm so glad we're doing that, and I hope you get a good turnout. Thanks. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Harriet, and then the city manager needs a minute for something he wanted to mention. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
So I just wanted to expand on the fourth meeting for the comp plan update. That is December 16th, and we all got the advertisement. I think the city's going to advertise it publicly. It's from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30. And then the other thing, I've got one request of the commission, and that's that we, with consensus, ask staff to look into zoning in progress, specifically for stormwater, the stormwater chapter of our code. We've looked at zoning in progress for a few other chapters of our code, and I think the next step is seeing what that looks like for that chapter as well. So,
can you explain to some of us up here what that means? I mean, I spoke to Jordan, but just in case.
Can I ask Jordan to come up and explain that in a little bit more detail? He's going to use the correct terminology to explain it, but it's...
As he's rolling up his sleeve, right?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Jordan. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No problem. So zoning in progress basically takes the code, it's not a moratorium, it's just puts a pause on and allows staff to go back and review the code, make modifications, and bring it back to the commission. Any applications that come before the city, once zoning in progress becomes in effect, we'll have to follow any modifications that the city commission adopts.
Thank you. So it's in lieu of a moratorium. There are a lot of benefits to it that you're not afforded within a moratorium. So I just think that if we could provide consensus for staff to look at that, and that would benefit residents across a couple districts. So that's all I've got.
Could we do a consensus? Will the clerk ask each commissioner, please?
Commissioner Villasquez?
Yes, I still would like to find out what the county chair is referring to in his letter.
Commissioner Colwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Howington?
Yes.
Commissioner Lowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Santiago?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harriet?
Yes.
Mayor Vila?
Yes.
Thank you, guys. And that's all I have.
City manager, before I speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to make sure, Brandy White, resident here, just wanted to point out a couple of dates that we missed. Light Up City Hall is December 4th from 6 to 8, the event here. These are things that will take place before the next meeting, which she pointed out to me. I appreciate that. Light Up City Hall, December 4th, and Christmas Parade registration deadline is November 30th. November 30th, anyone wants to be in the Christmas parade. Also, 2 events took place this weekend. The Turkey Trot 5K yesterday, about 250 participants, including the mayor and a few commissioners, I believe, walked briskly during that event. brisk walk. And then the other was the shred day, first time ever that we did here on Saturday morning. We'll do it again in maybe 5-6 months. 90 cars came through, about 4,500 pounds of paper, several bins of used needles, and several bags of medicine, way outdated, that was dropped off for the police department and fire department to dispose of. So shred day was a great event. We'll get some more information out. All that'll be on our website. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. I just have a couple of things. The status of the bow ramp, a couple of us covered that. So thank you guys for that. While Commissioner Villavasquez was asking for Deltona High School, I got a text message from our county school board member that we include somehow, Pine Ridge, because they also got an award similar. So we can put that up for consideration if possible. A quick announcement, I was actually just appointed today as vice chair of the Volusia County Roundtable of Elected Officials.
Congratulations.
Thank you, which puts Deltona in position to become chair of that again. Again, one of those things that Commissioner Villavasquez mentioned, we must attend, and as our city manager can tell you, it was a lot of fun, And we all know why Commissioner Lully wants that Starbucks information so badly, so he doesn't have to drive to Howland and Graves. Joking aside, I want to just take a minute. There was a resident here that made a comment about this morning me saying I wouldn't support the county chairman's moratorium, and those meetings are recorded just like this. I just want to say that is complete false, and it's a complete lie. What I specifically said was that I've been mayor for 2 years. Full disclosure, I supported Chairman Brower in his first election. I did not support him in his reelection. And I have not heard from him for 2 years since I've been mayor. That was my comment this morning. And that we talked about, our specific county commissioner or councilman said something about maybe removing communication taxes or something. And I recall watching that meeting, and he got beat up on that because supposedly they were saying the county shouldn't dictate to cities what we should or should not do. And all I said was I want to see him be successful because I live in Volusia County. What I don't believe was a good start to that is instead of getting a call, hey, what do you need? What does your city need? We get a blanket email on, essentially, we need to figure out a way to stop. It went from housing to all building or whatever it is. I agree with Commissioner Villavasquez, we need to look at the letter, but I would appreciate a olive branch of, hey, how can we work together on getting things done, and let's talk about how the county can help, not here's what I think we should all do. And let me tell you, the majority of the mayors over there were in full agreement. We have not heard from our county chair, at least in the 2 years, from what the other mayors are saying. So that was the only comment I made. I never said I wouldn't support one, so full disclosure. Meeting's adjourned.